Hello and welcome to our webinar on how to launch 100,000 hyper-relevant pages within 90 days to accelerate your customer acquisition. And today, just going to start with a bit of housekeeping. There's a Q&A button down the bottom there of your Zoom screen. If you want to ask any questions, we'll be able to answer them throughout the webinar today. And we'll also have a survey that pops up at the end of the session, and we really want to hear your opinion. Today, Andreas is going to be doing most of the talking. He is the co-founder and CEO of Longtail UX. He's an ex-Googler and Dentsu Aegis Network agency GM who has seen search engine marketing from all sides. And myself, who's also ex-Dentsu Aegis Network, and I'm the commercial director, and I look after cultivating and leading client relationships worldwide for Longtail UX. So we'll start with the problem. So the online go-to-market really hasn't changed in 10 years, and so many companies out there, and maybe even you can see some of yourselves in this, are still doing some of the following, wasting budgets on ads that aren't converting despite all of this diminishing returns on investment, trying to cram campaigns into suboptimal websites, fitting that square peg in a round hole, which can lead to a poor brand experience, particularly for new or potentially new customers. But the alternative is even worse. And we'll talk a bit about what being a Jira jockey is later in our presentation. And you're dismissing massive opportunities in organic marketing and the long tail of search. SEO, for some reason, is still considered a cost center in many businesses I speak to on a daily basis. And why are so few companies targeting the long tail of search? So we feel it's time for online go-to-market to change, and that's what we're going to talk to you a little bit about today as I hand over to Andreas.
Well, thank you, Rob. Yeah, so when we have a look at what these challenges or this go-to-market challenges mean for a specific industry, so this is an example, as a McKinsey study for fashion industry, and they have identified that out of, I think there were like 15 different problems mentioned, the top 3 for go-to-market are data, tools, and speed. So on the data side, the businesses really didn't know exactly what the demand was, and so that makes planning and forecasting really hard. And then digital tools and capabilities, like on the tool side, to actually then do something, even if they had the data. And that then basically means it's a really slow go-to-market, especially for new products as well. And so yeah, diving into that and from the data side. So we're Longtail UX. We obviously work in the long tail. The long tail is not just critical for commercial success for businesses, it's actually also like an amazing treasure trove of data on what the demand is. So when you work in search, you're probably familiar with this, but just going through this again, or just quickly, what is the long tail here? It's the long tail is pretty much everywhere. It's consumers looking for something very specific. It's in across all channels, but it's visible in search, and especially in paid search. You have search term reports which tell you what actually users or consumers typed into Google, and that then what triggers those ads, what were the searches. And the long tail is defined as 3 or more word variations. In this case here, you have shoes or men's shoes, women's shoes. That would be more considered like head terms. Individually, there's more searches for those actually, for those specific keywords, but they're very generic, and consumers who type that in don't really know yet what they want. They just do like general search. Once they actually type in something like Nike women's running shoes, they want to buy. They know exactly what they want, and every one of those individual search terms, there's millions of them. Every one of them doesn't have that much search volume, but all of them combined, the volume of those searches make up 50 to 70% of the overall demand. And that's critical to your success as a business, because they want to buy now. The interesting thing is that when you look at lots of articles about long tail, or when everyone else talks about the long tail, usually it's talked about as a niche opportunity. So here you can find your niche if you want to launch your new vegan beauty product brands or sustainable clothing, or that's where you actually find your niche and compete against the big businesses. What we actually see is the bigger the business, the bigger is actually that long tail. So on the right-hand side, you see data from a client of ours before they worked with us. And so $10 million of their search ad spend translated into 26 million long-tail searches that did not convert in that case. So that was $40 million in lost revenue. So that's a massive amount of data, right? So the problem with data, it's actually there if you know where to look, but it's a lot, like it's a massive amount there.
So we'll go into our poll questions. Going to be a few of these throughout the presentation. So question one, what percentage of your company budget do you spend on targeting the long tail? Less than 25%, 20 to 50, 50 to 75, or more than 75, or you just don't know? And you'll see now that the poll question should pop up on your screen for you to answer that question, and we'll go through the results in a few seconds if everybody can have a bit of a vote now. Great, so we might close that poll off and we will come back to the results in a moment. We can see that 50% of you are saying that less than 25% of your budget is spent on the long tail, 38% say they don't know, and 13% say that it's between 25 and 50%. So really, the majority of that is at the lower end of the budget.
No, yeah, that's really interesting data, especially also the don't know, because that's actually what we see. Like the data is there, but you can't actually specifically target it. And we're getting to the why. So we talk about data, now we get to tools. So this is how the long tail experience looks like in many cases. So when you're a consumer and you search for something specific, like floral dress with sleeves in Sydney, your experience is like on Google, most of the time you will have an ad that matches your query, what you are looking for, right? Because ad platforms are very flexible. You can create all kinds of ads, target all kinds of keywords, and they have evolved a lot over the last 10 years. Now, when you click on that ad, most of the times though, you will actually only see a landing page that answers part of that question. So in that case, there's only one dress without, like one floral dress, and none of this has sleeves. And there's no information on anything related to Sydney, like store availability, shipping options, same-day delivery or not, like all of these things. So from a user perspective, that's not great, but what you do, you just go back and do a few more clicks. From a business perspective, this is extremely frustrating because you've just delivered a bad brand experience. Well, first of all, you spent money on the ad, but then you actually delivered a bad brand experience. And it's even more frustrating because it's unnecessary, because you actually have more, you probably have more of those floral dresses with sleeves, and you probably have a lot of information on what are your stores in Sydney, what's the availability, do you have same-day delivery for that specific location, etc., etc., just not on that landing page. And when you think about store experience, if you went into a store and asked that question to like someone who works in the store, you would expect them to answer like your entire question, not just give you, oh, here's like one dress that sort of fits, and then you just disappear. Like in a store, if you did that as an employee, you would probably not last very long there. For a website, it's just accepted behavior. It happens all the time. Now, from a marketer perspective, you have two options, right? You can throw more money at Google and just spend more on ads, right? You haven't converted that one, but if you make sure that you appear on the next search or when they refine their search, etc., you're going to capture your audience at some point and get revenue, and that works really well for Google. The other option is you can try to improve that and say, hey, I need new landing pages. I need a new section on my website that I need something. Well, I actually want to have landing pages that combine location information with products. The challenge with that is like, that's what we call, like, you become a Jira jockey. We love Atlassian. We work with Jira ourselves, but as a marketer, it's not where you want to spend your time. You create a lot of tickets, and most of the time, well, those tickets go into queues, and developers have something else to do. And very often the platforms are actually too limited that can actually help you, at least at scale. So that brings us to the next question.
Yeah, so the next poll question, how many landing pages were created on your company's website last year specifically to achieve your marketing goals? So less than 100, 100 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, or more than 10,000, or actually you really have no idea. There should be a poll pop up now, and if you can click your answer, we will come to the answers soon. And don't forget as well, while we're waiting for that to finalize, that you can ask us any question by clicking the Q&A in the bottom of your screen should pop up if you hover your arrow down there. All right, so we might close that off. And we've got an answer here of 63% of you say that less than 100 pages were created on your company's website last year to achieve marketing goals. 25% say 100 to 1,000, and 13% say you really don't know. So interesting, again, that smaller number, because it is difficult and it's costly to be producing these pages and get them into your navigation. And that's why that number we see, the people that we speak to on a daily basis, that number is quite low.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, thanks again for answering that question. Yeah, and even like 100 to 1,000 pages, knowing how hard this is often on those platforms, that's actually well, that's quite a good number. But when you compare that to this 26 million we just showed before, or the tens of thousands that are actually where the opportunity is, of course, that's still just a part. So yeah, so to fix that and to basically give you or give our clients a tool to create those landing pages at scale and like relevant landing pages, we've invented the Smart Page. So that's the Longtail UX Smart Page, basically, that sits on our system, can be created, but it's served by your website. So it's actually delivered under your URLs, in your domain, in your design. Users, Google, it's the same. It's coming through your server, but it actually sits on our system. And what our system allows is to match any type of keyword with any type of content you have. So in that case, you have Lisa looks for floral dresses in Sydney, and then there's the ad or the organic search result. And then that Smart Page actually shows the floral dresses that are available in Sydney, and you could have store location information and any other information related to that, flexible. So whether your website can do it or not, our Smart Pages can do it. And what happens then is, instead of Lisa going back between different ads and different landing pages, there's so much information on that landing page. Lisa goes back between that Smart Page and your product pages. So it gives the choice, but without actually having to change the destination. And the destination is our client. Now, this is all good when you think about paid ads and paid advertising. But when it comes to organic search, of course, those new pages have to be an integral part of your website. So that means Google needs to be able to crawl them, or Bing or any other search engine that might still be out there. I need to be able to crawl the pages, to index the pages, but also to actually see them as a relevant part of the website. And in order to do that, we've invented the smart links. So those smart links basically don't replace your existing navigation, because like the last thing we could do is go to like Meyer or Woolworths or like any of our large clients and say, hey, we have 40,000 new pages. They are amazing. Please change your entire website navigation, right? That would never happen. But here with the smart links, you actually have, it's a widget you put, it's a piece of code you put on your pages, and it creates links which are contextually relevant, help linking those new pages from existing pages, but actually then also give link juice back. So what it does then is those new pages can be indexed, they can rank, but they actually help the entire site also to increase the context for that topic. And so with that, we have the pages, and then for organic, we have the links. Right now we have 3 solutions. Maybe to start from the bottom, actually. So LUX Organic is what I just talked about. You can finally capture the long tail of demand in organic search, meaning that you can you can actually target keywords specifically and then measure the results. So this is the first time we're actually helping to convert organic search from a cost center into performance channel. You can actually measure the performance of those new pages. You can measure the revenue, the click rates, you can measure conversion rates, bounce rates, but actually down to the dollar, first click, last click, whatever you want, just like any other performance channel. Then that's patented. That's a patented system. Then we have the paid solution for paid ads. So for any text ads, again, for any keywords you target, our system can create a landing page, which is perfectly related. So you search for something, you click on the floral dress in Sydney, and you actually land on a landing page that does the same. That increases conversion rates and revenue per click that you're paying for by 30% and more. And then we have LUX Shopping, which is a super exciting format because, as we all know, shopping is pretty much the biggest ad format on the planet. There's pretty much half of Google's revenue comes from shopping ads. And as an e-commerce business, you would spend like 70, 80, or 90% of your search budget on shopping ads because, well, it's so easy, right? You put your product inventory in there, and then you can bid on keywords. Google figures out what the keywords are, and your product ads appear. The challenge with that is normally what happens is as a user clicks on an ad, opens in a new tab, and you only ever see one product. So for every product as a business, for every product you show to the user, you pay. You pay once for every product, and then they go back and they click on another ad. What we've done with our LUX shopping landing pages, we can create a variation of your product page that shows more products above the fold. So you pay once, but you show 10 products that are related to the search query. So these are the three solutions. And as mentioned before, so this is shopping actually in detail and actually with numbers. So as I said before, on the left-hand side, you search for something quite specific, but then every time you click, it opens in a new tab. And we really see this, although it's working fantastically for Google, but also you can actually bid on your entire inventory. But really, it's sort of a broken funnel, because in that case, you have one company there with 3 ads, and they pay every time the user clicks, but then you also have 2 competitor ads in the middle, right? So you pay, but then they still see your competitor products in the funnel, and you have to click a lot as a user. Whereas on the right-hand side, you see an example, our implementation with Rudolph's at the moment. Well, instead of that one product page, that remains the same on the website. The shopping landing page our system produces just shows much more relevant products above the fold. And obviously that increases revenue per click. And that 30% is conservative. We see much higher numbers.
Andreas, we have a couple of questions that have
Sure.
come in. So question 1, so do all these landing pages actually exist, or are they a static page that has dynamic elements, or are they generated on the fly? I will give the headline answer, which is they are a static page that has lots of dynamic elements in there. They're not created on the fly. And that's obviously particularly important for the organic product, where the page is indexed and therefore ranked in Google. For our shopping and paid, we have them no index, no follow, but again, they are static pages where the products or content within the page is dynamically refreshed. Generally speaking, every single day, can be more frequently, can be less frequently, depending on the implementation. Anything you wanted to add to that, Andreas?
No, that's a great summary. Maybe just to add like another angle is they behave like keywords you target in a paid campaign, right? You define the keyword list in advance, and the same here. You define your pages you want to, like the keywords you want to target, and the pages in advance. However, same as with your keyword list in Google Ads, which you refine on a monthly basis or with data based on your results, you do exactly the same with those LUX Smart pages, right? So on a monthly basis, you can actually say, okay, these are the whatever 40,000 pages. You look at the performance, and then depending on the performance, you can make decisions. Oh, I want to take down 5,000 because they didn't deliver what I thought they would. But then you can actually create other ones, and that creation of like switch of pages happens in seconds. It's literally just up and downloading keyword lists, what our consultants can do for you. And the links, the smart links I talked about when it comes to organic search, they automatically adapt. There's an algorithm behind.
And there's a follow-up question on that, Andreas. So why does Google index these pages with so many dynamic elements? Seems like it's indexing all the suggestions my website search app might suggest. I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, so those are pages, it's very important, they're actually pages under fixed URLs. So they're not sort of search results somehow on the fly with some dynamic URLs. They behave as normal pages. They have a normal URL structure. The other thing is actually we have developed our own CDN. We pre-cache all of those pages. So they actually load from cache. So while they're dynamic, and there's dynamic JavaScript and whatever you have on your site that behaves the same way, the pages actually load from server cache. So that makes them faster, but also makes them much easier to index.
And then another question we have here is, if we add more products, does the customer still have the option to view all the extended information? Absolutely. These pages are recached every day using our algorithm from the product feed we take from you. And those products sit there on the page. You can have pagination or load more. on all of the pages. So it refreshes every single day. So if a product sells out, it won't be there the next day. If you have a new product that's more applicable to the search term, then that product will come up to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to add there, Andreas?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So yeah, it refreshes with how often the product feed updates, but we can actually do it even refresh. We can refresh live. So if you have like a great example, like, well, Dan Murphy's or some other, like, price can change at any time. Booktopia, availability can change at any time. We can actually have live pricing and live stock availability as well. Woolworths is another example where we basically just talk directly. The page is pre-cached, but when it loads, and if anything has changed in the meantime, it actually takes the live price and the live availability.
Great question. Thank you. We'll continue with the presentation now.
Cool. Yeah, so with that, the Longtail is really waiting for you because it's always been there. So the Longtail has been there since the beginning of well, the Longtail has always been there, but with more digital channels, consumers are used to search in a more granular way. And with search, now it's actually become visible, but also already for like 2 decades, right? Search term reports on Google exist for quite a long time. The only thing what happened before such a system is you could look at all those search terms and you could then build out your campaigns, but you couldn't actually do much with it on your website. So now you can actually do it on your website. And it's another layer where you can actually have it's like a marketing layer on your website. So yeah, Longtail is there, data is there. Here you have the tool to get those pages. And then we have a team that actually helps identify like what's your Longtail, where's the opportunity, and then where to generate growth. And as I said before, you identify what is the opportunity, you launch those pages, and then our team on a monthly basis actually goes and looks at data, same as our clients do as well from their side, and identify like, okay, what else should we target, or what should we take out and replace? And there's actually a third angle there, which is really important. And we see this more and more used by our clients as well. It's actually a go-to-market tool for new products, because very often we see that there's a lot of demand on a certain pattern, certain type of products, but actually less pages. So we have the data then, okay, here's your demand, here are the number of, here are the number of matching products, and there's a discrepancy. Which then means there's an opportunity. You should have more products in this category. You should have more products with certain, certain type of products. So that's really exciting. So one is capturing existing demand with existing products, but actually future looking, when we go back to the 3 go-to-market problems, what do you want to launch in the future? This suddenly becomes really exciting because you can actually identify future demands and then change your product mix. And yeah, and then on organic search, everything is measurable. And in that case, here you see we look at rankings. You see industry benchmarks. This is an Ahrefs study, which looks at how many pages actually rank in position 1 within a certain amount of time. And the study is like industry-wide, is only 1% actually ever make it to number 1, and only 11% actually make it into the top 10. And what we see is that within the first year, or often it's just months, here you have 2 examples, Meyer over in Australia, Bravissimo is over in the UK, and there's tons more of them. Those pages, the LUX pages, rank so much faster, but they also actually rank much more of them. So you see like 10, 11% in position 1, and then 29 or 48% on page 1. And why is that? Well, the pages are so much more optimized for the actual topic. You are able to target specific keywords with inventory you actually have, not just with a blog post about a topic, but actually products. And then our smart links enable that actually everything is linked contextually. And then the other element is you can optimize over time. Right? So if there's like 20% you don't get into the top 100, well, you just can take them out and you can try others. And then you can optimize a lot within the system. So it just gives you so many tools to actually optimize for the long tail. And this is extremely exciting because this is what always baffled me working in the industry for years, or decades now, is organic search is so vastly underinvested. When you think about like your typical business, e-commerce business, you would expect that like 25% of your overall revenue comes from organic search. And when you look at paid, when you look at just search, paid versus organic search, it's almost like a 50-50, right? Like depending on your budget, 60% of your revenue would come from paid if you spend a lot of money there, and still 40% comes from organic. It's almost half-half. But then when you look at budgets in your company, your paid search teammates would easily spend $1 million, $2 million, sometimes $10 million a month on paid search, right? In larger markets, like massive amounts of money. Whereas the organic search budget, you're happy with 50,000. That's actually a big organic search budget. So why is this discrepancy? It's because so far, organic search has been a cost center. It's so hard to justify budgets for organic search because whatever you do and you did is you make changes, it could go up or could go down, and then it takes time because the algorithm doesn't react immediately. And so there's always a lag, and it's so hard to actually justify. It's usually you look at cost and the things you have to do rather than at opportunity. Whereas in paid search, you just measure and say, oh, look, we get a whatever ROI of 10, our target is 8, we can spend more money. Now, this is the opportunity with a tool like ours and what we see with our clients as well. Now, suddenly you have a tool where you can target keywords, where you can measure results, and you transform the cost center into performance channel. And now the opportunity organic is so massive because you can actually start spending budgets, sometimes taking some from paid into organic, but very often just there's additional opportunity and then get so much more out of the channel as well.
Before we go on to pull through, we've got a couple more questions, one to follow on from the question around more information or extended information. So they want to know is additional information for the product specifically. Now, there's a couple of ways that this can happen. The example given here in the question is nutritional information or allergens. So all LUX paid and LUX organic smart pages have a grid and a list view. That has many advantages. For Google's crawling those pages, the list view has content pulled in from the content or product descriptor. So in this case, nutritional information and allergens might be products or recipes, where that information will be pulled through. Google sees this as content, which helps the ranking. Secondly, the user can actually click onto the list view and read a little bit more. However, what I would say as well is in the examples that we've shown you, which is very product-based today, that it's like a PLP or a list page or a category page, subcategory page, but that's very specific to the search term that somebody's typed in. So people can just click on the product and they can go through to the PDP. That still remains obviously an integral part of your platform, and they can read all the rest of that information, and then they can come back and be back on the LUX smart page. So absolutely extra information is there on page. In the list view, but also there is obviously they can click through onto all the products and end back up on the PDP. Anything you wanted to add there, Andreas?
No, nothing to add.
Excellent. And so another question we have is, how does this work with services? Well, we do a lot of work with lead generation for services, and we do this through content, very similar to the example I just used there with recipes. So we work with our clients. They will have content already around the topics that they know there is already demand for, and we do some work with them to help them build out that roadmap of content. So we've got lots of content that has all the right, I guess traditionally called SEO properties on your site, and then we pull them together into a multi-content experience, which obviously is highly relevant to the search term that we're targeting, either in paid or in organic. So hopefully that answers both of those questions. You've got something to add there on services and lead generation, Andreas?
Yeah, on lead generation, it's really, when you think about what we do, is we need two things. We need the demand to be long tail, so lots of different queries, lots of different ways how people search, and then we need to have some kind of content we can use to answer that. And maybe just to give you an example, sometimes it doesn't have to be that much content, and it's when you look at it, you actually realize how much you actually have. So pack and send logistics is a really interesting example. They have 100 locations across the nation, and they offer shipping, right, for the FLAV, fragile, large, awkward, and valuable items. That's what they specialize in. And so when you think about the demand there, you would think, oh, okay, just shipping from one place to the other. But it's actually, there's 3 dimensions. And the moment you get 3 dimensions, it becomes really interesting. The dimensions are, you have locations you ship from, you have locations you ship, being German here, right? Locations you ship from, your locations you ship to. And as a third one, you actually have all the different services, right? That's your third dimension. You can ship bikes or personal items or pianos, and so there's actually demand for all of those. Once you combine them together, you actually get to like 35,000 like a universe of 35,000 different ways to search. And then for us, we just had to figure out what's the content that can match. And then out of those 35,000, which are the ones you actually want to target where it makes sense. Or Cluey Learning, you have, they do tutoring, online tutoring. You have all the different subjects, you have the different classes, the different locations. So suddenly, again, 3 dimensions, it gets really interesting. E-commerce is clear, right? Once you have like 1 million products, there's so many ways to search for it. But services, as long as you have those dimensions, and our team can actually help identify them for you.
Great, I hope that answers those questions. So we'll move on to the next poll, which is what percentage of your company's revenue is from organic search or SEO? Less than 25%, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, or 75 and above, or you don't know. That poll question should appear on your screen about now, magically. If you can just let us know the answer to that one, and we will come with the responses. And again, they're anonymous questions, so don't be afraid to ask some questions by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen if you want us to answer any more. We'll go to the results of poll question 3. And 50% of you have no idea what revenue is coming from organic search, which is really interesting. We have, and then a kind of an equal split across the rest of the options. So, but half of you not knowing, and that's very typical for what we see. A lot of companies do a lot of SEO work, but it's very, very difficult to measure. And what I would say about particularly our LUX organic product is it's an and product. We don't do SEO. We have a great organic product that works better the better your SEO is. So we might move on to poll question number 4, which is from the entire search budget, organic, paid, and shopping. How much does your company spend on organic search? So the options are less than 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, or 75 and more, or you don't know. I think that's interesting based on the numbers that we've just seen for where the revenue is coming from. How much are you actually spending or investing in those channels? So if we'll have a look at those results. So a bit of a split there, 25% not sure. The biggest there being less than 25%, at nearly 40% of you think that less than 25% is spent on organic search of your total search budget. And then there's some ranges in between there. So very interesting that although equally you think across the number, your revenue's coming from organic search, then even more so skewed to less money being invested into organic search.
Yeah. No, that's definitely interesting data. So, I mean, I'm always impressed if it's like more than 50 or 75%. That means obviously you have to, it's very organic focused when the revenue comes. But yeah, from your answer, we see like this, like there's a higher percentage of revenue versus a lower percentage of spend, which is exactly what we see. Yeah, I've just seen in the companies I worked for, like a large retailers or e-commerce, I've seen like very, very big discrepancies there, exactly for the reason that organic search is sort of seen as a free channel because, or like a cost center, because you can't manage it as a performance channel traditionally. Yeah, so this is, to sum up the solution, right? Instead of having those 2 options there, throwing more money at Google, on ad formats that work really well, but they could work so much better, or become a Jira jockey and create tickets that very often actually can't be fulfilled. Here you have a third option. You can actually launch those pages yourself, because once it's set up, it's actually in your control. You don't actually have to talk to developers, and you can do basically spend as much time on the advert on creating those pages, or like quickly, sorry, much effort, less time. And create landing pages as granular and as relevant as you create the ads. Plus you have your organic channel you can actually unlock. So yeah, with that, you can really leverage your well, you can leverage revenue or ROI, but your creativity as well, and with unprecedented speed. So what we see is that the clients we work with, of course, we make their campaigns more efficient. and they can then allocate more budgets to the long tail. But also they really realize all the things they can do, right? They can actually now create a much better brand experience. They can do things they weren't even thinking before, right? We can put maps on landing pages, on websites that didn't have any map view. We can combine different types of content. We work a lot with, we can target best keyword combinations because we can use your reviews and ratings and reorder based on that. So you actually have a meaningful experience there, rather than just a copy of what the normal category page would have been. So yeah, so there's exciting things to do, and you can do it really fast. And speaking of results, we're looking here at $500 million lifetime revenue, and just the examples here, actually we're generating 50 million annual revenue for those examples here. So there's Grace, Meyer, Catch, Adevinta, it's a marketplace over in North America. Massive uplifts. These are organic numbers, and then add to that the increases in return on advertising spend, in conversion rates on the paid channels. These are really big uplifts.
I think as well on the right-hand side of that slide, it's not just big uplifts. We have a great team. It's not just our platform. That's fantastic. It's also our people. So, you can see quotes there from our current customers about how great it's been working alongside us, and particularly through that onboarding process as well.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point there. Thanks for that you mentioned that, because while we say, oh, this is an amazing tool, it's a new way to do that, it's actually only as good as our collaboration and how we work together and our clients. So we work with obviously extremely clients with a lot of experience, and so they know their business best, obviously. They have some idea also on long tail, on targeting. Then we have our team and the tools to help them, and then really working together to create the best user experience, the best brand experience, and working together on what should the landing page template look like. No, yeah, that's very important. So it's technology and team on both sides.
So we'll go on to poll question number 5. My company already invests enough to optimize our website to achieve optimal marketing results. Do you strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree with that? And we should get a pop up there for you to have a quick vote on that one. And I think we'll close that off and have a quick look at the results now. And we see that only 10% agree, and then we have 30% at neutral, 20% at disagree, and 40% strongly disagree with that statement. Now it might be a good time for us to just answer another question that's popped up. For one of you out there, we see that Facebook generates more leads than Google, and cost-wise, Google is so much more expensive for lead gen than Facebook. Can the long tail be used in Facebook as well? Absolutely it can, and I will let our chief product guy answer that question because it is in our roadmap.
Yeah, so first on the data that Facebook is more efficient, I would throw like a little caveat on that. And of course, I don't know the specific data, but what I've seen many times is when you look at your efficiency of your campaigns within Facebook advertising is a little bit like when you looked at your efficiency with conversion, like in conversion just in the Google ad platform. So Facebook is a funny one, because very often if you spend a lot of money there, still depending on the demographic, there's still lots of people are on Facebook, of course, right? Like there's a big audience. And if you use Facebook tracking, they basically claim anything. So if they looked on Facebook, if an ad appeared and then later they come through a different channel, the Facebook tracking only knows Facebook, right? So it will always be attributed to Facebook. Obviously, when you use Google Analytics or Adobe, sometimes it is an extremely efficient channel still, depending on what your product is. And to answer that question then, and what Rob mentioned is, so our system, we're about to launch LUX Social as well, which is pretty much a similar or the same experience you have for Google Shopping on the social equivalent. It's the equivalent to Google Shopping on Facebook and Instagram are catalog ads. And you have the same problem there. You can upload your inventory, your catalog, and you can run ads against that. But the landing page would always, every time would be a single product. So our multi-product landing pages actually give you more choice for the first-time user. So same there. We're about to launch that.
Great. Hope that answers that question. And I think we can move on now.
Yeah, but just quickly to that, Paul. So so it was sort of a rhetorical question, right? Because we talked about all the limitations. We're talking to marketers, I imagine here, and of course, from a marketer's perspective, the website you can do so much in advertising platforms, and why can't my website not keep up? The challenge is platforms are limited. It's not what they're built for. And sometimes businesses spend an amazing amount of money on the website. You just don't know, right? But to get new features and to get anything new on there, you have to wait for the next replatforming. There's like a 2-3 year time horizon and a 1-year project, and it actually there is a lot of investment. It's just not for marketing. So that's what we basically wanted, to have this system to actually give marketers the ability to make the website work for them, and especially for acquisition. So yeah, join the go-to-market revolution. This is a really new way of making websites work for acquisition, not just for retention, not just for users who come back where you have a cookie and you know what they looked at before and you can show that to them, but for new users. And yeah, so we have generated 10 million smart pages, 50 million smart links, and generated millions of leads and even more millions of revenue. And we're doing this for a really large enterprise. We're also doing this for some smaller clients who actually have become quite big over the time we're working with them. And yeah, super excited to be working with all those businesses and helping them with customer acquisition at scale. So if you have any more questions, give us a shout. Or Rob.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, give us a shout and we will certainly set up a meeting to take you more specifically. We can take you through how Longtail UX can assist you. If there's any more last minute questions at the end, I don't type them in now. But yeah, give us a shout. Either reach out through our website or you can contact me directly on either of those contact details you see there. Otherwise, I think we've got one last question here. What's our minimum investment? So we do have an annual minimum investment of $60,000 a year. So that's our minimum level. But generally speaking, the scale would be larger than that. And one other question: how long does it take to launch new pages? Well, our official line is 90 days. And that's the only line I'm allowed to use. But I will say that the last couple of implementations have gone to within 4 to 5 weeks. They've gone live, and we move as quickly as you can move. So with the setup there, we can. And then the elephant in the room, the question is pricing. The last question I will answer: we are priced on a price per page model, and that is a scalable price per page dependent on the size of the implementation. Any more information on that specific pricing, we will deliver to you during the process that we would go through. So definitely do reach out. It does depend on the scale of your site and the scale of the implementation that we go through. So I think that's answered all the questions. If there is anything else you want to find out, like I say, do reach out, and we'll hopefully speak to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks very much for joining. Have a great day.